What is up, pro wrestling fans? Welcome to Nation's Corner. I am Front Row, and we have a very special show tonight. We are packed. We have a house full. We have all kinds of people, lots of stuff to talk about. Welcome to 2023. So let me go around the room. Tonight we have Debhausen, the great and powerful, Tony Justice, the greatest truck driver of all time, Mongrovian Mike from out on Long Island, Ezra Vickery, Too Sweet Neil, and our very special guest, Karen Peterson. My goodness, people, this is a way to kick off the year.
Hell yeah.
What's everybody up to?
What's going on?
Bringing in 2023 the right way.
There we go. Let's do it.
We are.
There has been a lot of stuff happened since the last time we talked to y'all. We're not going to go through it all because it would take a whole day, I think. But we do want to talk a lot about some of the cool stuff that's been going on in the last week or so. A lot of us stayed up late. Some of you stayed up super late to watch Wrestle Kingdom, some of the Fallout, and a few other shows in Japan. There's a lot that's been happening in the world of AEW and WWE. And even within the group, there's a bunch of stuff going on. And we'll talk a little bit about some stuff outside of this. So what we're going to do, I think, tonight is there's a lot of people on here. So Neil, Ezra, and Karen and I are going to jump in and talk all things Japanese wrestling for a few. And then we'll join, everybody will come back. We're going to talk about some other stuff across the industry. But before we do, everybody give me just a brief summary. How was your holidays? Deb, let's start with you.
Pretty good. I unfortunately had to work Christmas weekend. It was just, my turn in the weekend rotation. So, oh well, it is what it is. But I had a good time with family. And New Year's was nice and relaxing. I went to visit my grandparents up in the Poconos during the day, and then just came and chilled back here at home, talking to you guys online at night. So it was fun. It's been a good year so far.
Nice. How about you, Tony?
Man, I just got to go home for Christmas weekend. Got to spend some quality time at home. I was home for probably a full week. Then came out and got loaded for Illinois and Wisconsin and had to come up into the dang blizzard. So I chased a blizzard into Minnesota the other day, and that was fun. But yeah, I've got a new word for those bomb cyclone things. I call it a bliznado. So yeah, so that was fun. So yeah, here I am. I'm still up here in Minnesota, by the way. My truck's in the shop, so getting it ready to run 2023 now. So here we go.
So are you blaming our friend Blizz for the bad weather?
You know what?
Shout out to Blizz.
I need to have a conversation with that dude.
Nice. Ezra, what were you up to?
There's NATO in the studio, I'll tell you that.
Ez, how about you?
Oh, it's just, your prototypical holiday with family and friends. My mom was able to enjoy, she had a friend who she hadn't seen in over 40 years, and we had her over for Christmas dinner. She's moving up to Indiana, so it was a great time. Hung out with my sister and husband. Prototypical holiday stuff. Actually, at Christmas Eve off, which is something I get every year with my job. Thank you guys. I had to go in Christmas night, but luckily not until midnight, so I was able to enjoy most of the holiday. And the rest of 2022 was pretty good. Getting things set up for my other ventures, my cosplay ventures, and other things going on for 2023, and doing that, and then also, of course, ready to enjoy a new year of all things pro wrestling. So let's do it.
Nice. How about you, Mongrovian Mike?
Oh well, it was a great New Year's. It was a nice holiday. Had some fun. I finally got my Thunder Rosa blood and guts. Look at that. Yeah, baby. Yeah. Got that
very soon.
I just have it. Yeah, just having a lot. It's amazing. This place is on Long Island. I wait the longest. I see people for weeks. But hey, I got mine. I'm like, this place is like a couple of towns away. I'll drive there.
That's how I feel.
It's been great. I want to give a shout out to everybody's hearing out there. Shofi, my man Shofi, wrestling with savages out there. We got a few people out there. Marks, of course. I just want to say hi to everybody. And Savage, watch out. Watch out for Ref Aubrey. Don't piss her off.
Yeah. How about you, Neil? How was your holiday?
Oh, good. Just standard family fun, lots of food, lots of beverages, and hanging out with you guys and just relaxing, and then starting the new year off right with a whole bunch of wrestling.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
And Karen, how were you? What was your holiday season like?
Well, being a state employee meant I had 2 glorious weeks off for winter vacation while the university was closed, where I had a whole lot of good intentions and that it did absolutely nothing, and I'm completely unapologetic about it. I played
I'm proud of
Animal
you.
Crossing. I like made cider. I wrote in my journal. That was about the extent of what I did. And then,
Nice.
Christmas at the parents' house, New Year's, just me and the dog playing Animal Crossing while drinking champagne and eating cupcakes. That's how I roll.
Nice.
Oh,
Uneventful, but optimistic going into 2023.
And of course, Zelda loved
that
all the
sounds like a
extra
dream.
attention, right?
Oh yeah, she's gonna be mad when I start going back to the office next week.
Yeah, we had a similar situation here where we had company, we had family over for the holidays, and our Zelda, because we both have Zeldas, was spoiled for about 2 weeks with constant attention 24 hours a day. She was exhausted every night at 8 o'clock though. So it was good for her. Cool. All right. Well, I think at this point, we're going to say goodbye to Tony, Deb, Mike. and we're
Thank
gonna
God.
talk all
Thank
things-
God you got rid of that last person. Thank God.
You guys live in the same state.
Yeah, I want to see him.
That's why I can insult him. I'm like 10 hours away from him, so that's good.
Oh, I see some other people in the chat. I want to shout out John in South Jersey, obviously. I see Guido. Let's see who else.
RA.
Sure, Mrs. Front Row's lurking somewhere. RA's in there. Got a lot of people tonight.
Awesome.
Okay, so I just want to set the stage. As you guys know, I watch some Japanese wrestling, but I am not the subject matter experts that you are. But there was a lot of buzz around Wrestle Kingdom this year and the Noah show, both for similar reasons, because there was so much crossover between promotions this year. Seeing when Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows signed with WWE, I was like, okay, this is crazy, because Carl Anderson is the never open weight champion. And what are they going to do with that? How are they going to do? Are they just going to make him drop it? The speculation was that was just going to happen. Well, fast forward, Carl Anderson, had a match for his title at Wrestle Kingdom. And conversely, we had Kenny Omega, a contracted AEW talent, on the card as well. So as far as I know, and you guys can keep me honest, I think it's the first major pay-per-view that had those 3 companies, New Japan, AEW, and WWE, contracted talents on at the same time.
Oh yeah. Especially since AEW is still brand new, and it's 3-4 years it's been around, so it's definitely something that's a first timer right there with AEW, WWE, and New Japan.
Yeah, and if you take a look at the history of, talents being over there from other companies, the only ones we've seen have been from AEW, that being Jon Moxley and Chris Jericho over the years. To have Kenny Omega, who was a New Japan staple, back on the biggest show of the year for the company, it was a great thing to have. And then also to have Carl Anderson not only representing Bullet Club, representing, never open weight, but also represent WWE. It was just great to have that happen. Also, if you watch the show, Carl Anderson actually came out with the OC t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it's a WWE licensed product, which was pretty cool. To see him walk out to that with that shirt on, and this shows that despite whether it be differences in booking, differences in wrestling IQ and ideals, that they could come together and create some moments and matches that will intrigue the fans no matter what company they're in.
Yep, and our very own Deb has a good point here. This generates a lot of interest for folks who are looking for additional information, and it made. And I don't want to leave out FTR either, right?
Oh, no.
They're
No,
AEW
no.
talent,
Yep.
and so we had 1, 2, 3, 4 different people from different companies over there doing their thing, and I thought it was super cool. So I had a lot of hype going into it, and you guys got me hyped up. I tried to stay up as late as I could. I made it through the pre-show.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
and then I had to tap out, but I did circle back and watch the rest of the show. and it was great. So so Karen, before we start, any thoughts on the show itself and maybe possibilities of more cross promotional stuff in 2023?
The way I understand it was that when Carl Anderson was in New Japan, he was an independent contractor. Shortly after he got the belt, he got an offer from WWE and worked with WWE and New Japan to honor the dates that he had agreed to before the WWE contract came back to him, largely because New Japan tends to book longer programs, and his entire program was putting over Tama at the Dome. That was always the plan. So there was that conflict earlier in November where he was supposed to defend the belt, and then it coincided with the Saudi Arabia show that he got pulled for at the last minute, and that just threw the whole entire timeline off. So the thing about Anderson in New Japan in this match, it wasn't so much, I feel like it was more him wrapping up his business. And because, WWE, for right now, they're trying to play nice with a lot of people. And it's one of those things where I'm glad it's over, because now I feel like the program, not so much that Tama, not so much that Carl just needs to go back to WWE and everyone forget about him, but Tama needs to move beyond Bullet Club at this point. He's been fighting Bullet Club ever since he's got kicked out. He's been he was the one who lost the belt to Carl to begin with, and then just spent the second half of the year treading water, even though he got to the semifinals of the G1. It's one of those things where I just need them to move beyond that. As a whole, I did agree with how the outcomes of the card came overall, largely because of it being the end of the 50th anniversary, it coinciding, unfortunately, with the passing of Antonio Inoki. And it was the perfect way to cap off and close off. For those who aren't familiar with New Japan, Wrestle Kingdom is their WrestleMania, and that closes the program year for the previous year. So they tied up all the storylines, a lot of titles changed hands, and that was tying up all the loose ends basically. And then the next day is New Year's Dash, which is the equivalent of your Raw after Mania, your SmackDown after Mania, where all the wheels get set into motion for the next year. I have a feeling when it comes to WWE and New Japan or other Asian promotions or other promotions outside of WWE, as it were, it's going to be more of the case-by-case exceptional situations, largely like if you look at the Noah card where, Shinsuke Nakamura main evented that their biggest show of the year that's on New Year's Day against Keiji Muto, or, as the Great Muta. But that's because next month, Keiji Muto is retiring from professional wrestling. So we have to set realistic expectations for working relationships, if that makes sense. With AEW and Kenny Omega, it's a little different, largely because New Japan was where he got his start. He left to go set up AEW. And it's more of the, we had Forbidden Door and he missed Forbidden Door because of his surgeries and everything he needed to do. They've always had this talk about the comparisons between him and Ospreay. And that match that they had was not going to be the one and only time they're ever going to do it. There has to be another one at some point, just not too close in the nearby future. Let it breathe. And the same thing with FTR. They went to Royal Quest 2 in London back in October. They've been on New Japan Strong a couple of times, working with the talent, not necessarily as the IWGP tag champions, but they've been involved. So it's more of I'm glad to see that there's a little bit more give from the AEW side, because for a long time, especially since Forbidden Door, I've been very frustrated with it, where it felt like AEW was just taking titles and having all of this New Japan talent on there, but not giving anything back in return. So I'm hoping that allowing us to have Kenny Omega back in New Japan is more kind of tipping the balance to a more balanced relationship, if that makes any sense. But yeah, that's where I'm at with everything right now. Am I optimistic about 2023? Of course I am. But I also want to set those realistic expectations so I am not spectacularly disappointed. Case in point,
yeah, I think that
Wrestle Kingdom in Yokohama, everyone was hoping it was going to be an AEW crossover show, and it's not that at all. It is a Noah crossover show, the second that they did to repeat from last year Wrestle Kingdom on January 8th.
Yep, and it's interesting because last year we also saw Thunder go to Japan to face Miyu Yamashita, and I've heard at least some rumblings that there might be some additional work with Tokyo Joshi Pro in the coming year, which I would be very excited for. So I don't know what's going to happen on the WWE side, but I agree with you. There might be a case by case basis. I was encouraged by the fact that Carl Anderson was able to go and have this match, and who knows what's going to happen next year. But I largely agree with everything you said. Sort of a wait and see mode, right?
Yeah.
So let's dive into some of the card. We're not going to cover all the matches, obviously, because there's a lot to cover. But I actually want to start off with the women's match because that was the second match on the main card. I enjoyed the match. I'm a huge fan of Kairi. And I thought the entrances, and I do want to speak to the production of the entrances were spectacular. I love the video packages. I love the smoke and the pomp and all that stuff. And I know this isn't new for them, but I thought this year it was sort of taken to a new level. So Kairi's entrance was just terrific. I was a little disheartened by the length of the match. It was the shortest match on the card by half. The second shortest match was twice as long. So I don't know if you guys have specific feelings about that, but what are your feelings on the match and the outcome?
The match was, I enjoyed the match. Kairi and Tam Nakano. I like both of them. Been a fan of both of them. I just wish that it was longer. Happy that they got a match on the main card of Wrestle Kingdom, and that fans that don't know Stardom got to an introduction to Stardom with that match. But I just wish that it was a little bit longer, and it wasn't like once it ended, it was like, okay, is Mercedes Moné going to come out? I felt like it kind of like rushed to get to that, and then that had like as much time as the physical match. I would have liked to have seen the both of them have a longer match and build more of like a story and tell a story and show people what Stardom is. Like they did, but they should have just had like at least another 3-4 minutes, maybe go 10 minutes instead of 5.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I thought it was too short. Yes, it was a good showcase to showcase Stardom and showcase what the women of that promotion are about. But I feel like that if they would have gave them more time and let them go 10, maybe 11 minutes and let them just bang it out, I feel like that it would have been a better showcase. And I feel like that you could have seen more of what these women are about. And me, and Karen both know from watching Stardom and watching Tokyo Joshi Pro, how these women go 100% full tilt, no BS. They just hit hard and hit often. And I just felt like it was rushed so that we can get to Mercedes Moné's debut. Understandably so, it's a big moment, but I enjoyed the match. Do not get me wrong. I thought the match was a great match. I thought they did with the time they had. I thought they did an incredible job. Always been a fan of Kairi for a long time. And Tam Nakano really opened my eyes to her, really too. She is awesome in the ring as well. But yeah, I just felt like we were a little shortchanged on the time of the match, not the quality per se. But that's just my opinion on that.
I will try to make this as brief as I possibly can. For those who want stats and everything else, I will send you the link to my complete Wrestle Kingdom review over at Post, because since Wrestle Kingdom 14, Stardom has been involved, whether it's dark matches, tag matches, a main card match, and this, or even the IWGP Women's Tournament. This 5.5-minute match was shorter than every single other representation of Stardom on New Japan programming in the last 4 years. And this was the inaugural defense of the recently established IWGP Women's Championship. You gave it a 60-minute time limit, but gave them less than 6 minutes to have the match. Are you kidding me? This, as a woman who covers women's wrestling, loves women's wrestling, is a huge fan of Kairi and a huge fan of Stardom and a huge fan of Tam. It made me so mad that they basically got 15 minutes, 5 of which was entrances, 5 of which was the match, and then 5 of which was the segment, including Mercedes after the fact. On a show where you didn't need a 30-minute Rumble or 35 minutes of Okada versus Jay for the 5th time. So it was a good. They did the most they could with the time they were given. With as much hype and work as they've put into promoting this championship since the summertime when they announced it, it deserved at least bare minimum 10 minutes. Because you get an idea of what Stardom is, but Kyrie and Tam are so much more than what they were able to put in the ring. It felt like a scramble to get everything in. Especially when the main event of Historic Crossover against Mayu was a 25-minute match.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep. No, it's
I'm real fired up on this one.
No. Go, Karen. Go, yeah.
No, I think I had, so we're big supporters of women's wrestling. Obviously, we're big sponsors of Mission Pro Wrestling. So, like, when I saw the time of the match before I actually saw the match, I had to look at it again, and I texted Neil. I said, is that right? Like, was it only 5 minutes?
Yep.
Are you effing kidding me?
Nope.
And it's such a disrespect to the women. And so from a business standpoint, and I look at it this way, if you're bringing in someone of a caliber and a visibility level of a Mercedes Moné, like legitimately a WrestleMania main eventer, like she is a big deal in the world of wrestling, why do you not tell the world that your women's division is so important that this woman is coming here to challenge for that IWGP women's title that's recently minted, but you don't display it in a way that makes anybody feel like it's as important as bringing this person up? Does that make sense from a business standpoint? Like, why wouldn't you have a 10 or 12-minute match and see these two women kick ass and then have Mercedes come in and say, yes, this is where I want to be? Because she came in and said, this is where I want to be. And if I only saw this match, I would be like, okay, why?
Because she could win a squash match, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you had a 20-minute Stardom main event match and she came in at the end, now we have something. Now we're off to the races. But I just feel like someone with her star power, even just from her perspective, they should have set the table better. And that's not even talking about the disrespect to the women involved in the actual match. That's just end rant.
Yeah. Well, the other difficult thing for me as someone who covers Stardom regularly is that no sooner did Kyrie get this belt and the match was set for Wrestle Kingdom, they announced or leaked the information that Mercedes Moné may or may not be at Wrestle Kingdom. So the last month the conversation hasn't been about Tam versus Kyrie. Mm-hmm. It was the is she or isn't she conversation while she was still under a non-compete clause. Had they waited until January 1st when she's like, I'm a free agent, this is what's going on, maybe I'll see you in Tokyo, LOL, fine. But the fact is that her Mercedes showing up was the bigger conversation over the champion, the championship, and the championship title defense, which did nobody any favors except Mercedes. It didn't do Kyrie any justice. It didn't do Tam any justice. And it's not setting a good precedence for this championship, especially now that everyone's like, well, just take the belt off of Kyrie and put it on Mercedes.
No.
But that's where people are, but that's where, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But that's where the conversation has been focused on for the last 4 weeks. It hasn't been about who's going to challenge Kyrie after Tam or who's going to, who could possibly challenge. Like, they completely discounted Tam as a potential contender and then proved it by giving her a 5-minute match where she lost.
You read my mind and took the words out of my mouth, Karen.
Sorry, Neil.
No, perfectly fine. And you said it for me. Tam came out after Kyrie Mayu match to crown Kyrie as the champion. Then Tam came out, and I loved the in-ring promo, the back and forth, everything. I'm like, okay, ready for Kyrie and Tam. And like you said, as soon as it was announced, snap of a finger, it was made, and then it was forgotten about. And like, if I had not been the fan of, you know, New Japan, Stardom, all of them, like I am, like we are, I would have completely forgotten that it was Kyrie and Tam at Wrestle Kingdom, and just been like, oh, okay, who's Kyrie facing? Because, you know, it really doesn't matter because they're just building to Mercedes' debut. And I mean, no disrespect to her, to Mercedes, but you have to. I think it was bad on their part that they just didn't. That she overflowed social media, and there was just like no actual talk and buzz and hype and promotion of Kyrie Tam. It was all at the point at the time, Sasha, you know, and now Mercedes. And I'm like, well, you're just completely discrediting Tam. Like actually,
well, Neil,
put
to your
them
point,
together.
To your point too, you know, we talked about, you know, the 5, 5, and 5. Mercedes segment didn't need to be that long. I felt like it was too long, and I felt like either she was struggling with her promo or had dry mouth or something. She was struggling with the words in the promo, which is not characteristic of her. She's usually a great promo, but I think it was just a big moment for her. I think that should have been 2 to 3 minutes tops. You could have given the actual match another 2 to 3 minutes. Maybe cut the entrances down. You know, because we've been through the exercise of actually booking a show start to finish, entrances and all that other stuff. It's complicated, but I do think they should have found a better balance. The only other thing I wanted to mention was in the match itself. I don't want to discount the match itself because we're even doing that, right? We're talking about Mercedes and not about the match. But one of the things that happened, I noticed, was very critical. You know, Kyrie goes for that cutlass, and Tam blocked it twice. But it wasn't just the block. It was the way Kyrie sold her arm being injured from being blocked. And it's those little things that someone at her level are so important in a match like this. Everything's so believable. Kyrie's elbows, even her forearms, are no joke. And the same with Tam. And of course that insane elbow. But like that, when she finally landed that spinning back fist, and then Tam just fell over, I thought it was a great moment. I thought it was well done. If they had had more time, it would have been great. But I will say the quality of the match that we got, I was super impressed with.
Absolutely.
I did love how Tam, it took no bones about picking up Kyrie with that violet screwdriver and just driving her into the mat. And I feel like, because I'm used to like a 20 to 25 minute Tam Nakano like Wonder of Stardom Championship match. Like she can go, and she can go hard for a very long time. So it was one of those things where it was like, I feel like they had to pick the best hits of what they usually do and compress it and like hit the fast forward button on it. But yeah, that cutlass, no joke. The elbow also, I'm glad Kyrie was able to do the elbow in the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah.
Oh,
I just wanted more. I just wanted so much more of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That first spinning back fist, I thought she legitimately knocked Tam out. I thought
yeah.
That looked something straight out of the UFC. I swear to you not.
Like she's training at a gym, I guess somewhere near where she lives, and it's like with like one of the like top kickboxing kempo like former champions gyms. Like she's learning from some of the best in the industry in mixed martial arts. So yeah,
that's terrifying.
Yes, she's 5 feet tall, but absolutely terrifying.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. I definitely want to talk about the Vishimon versus FTR match, and it was interesting to me the reaction that they got. It felt like a mixed reaction. I think people respect FTR, but obviously, Goto and Yoshihashi were the hometown favorites. I don't know, so you guys have to smarten me up. Was there a heel face dynamic here, or was it just the spirit of the fight and the titles?
Spirit of the fight and the titles.
Yeah. Karen said it. Karen said it.
Yeah, and what it is also kind of in the background is the story of Yoshihashi. Yoshihashi was kind of the running joke in New Japan Pro Wrestling for the longest time. He was kind of the last guy on the totem pole in Chaos, and he was just he was just, he would lose a lot, not get a lot of wins. And then all of a sudden they started pushing him along with Goto as this tag team called Vishimon. And they were doing great success. And, then now all of a sudden they're the winners of the G1 Tag League, World Tag League. And now they're competing for the tag team titles. And it was not really a face-heel dynamic like you said. It was just more spirit of the belt, spirit competition, spirit of, the titles. That's why I think that I think it's that backstory of Yoshihashi kind of getting the moment that he deserves, while also Goto kind of getting back into the spotlight as well, because Goto, as many championships as he's won, being a former G1 finalist and winner, he hasn't, outside of the Never Openweight Championship, hasn't really been out there in the forefront in a long time himself. Been more in 6-man tags, 8-man tags, competing for the Never Openweight 6-man tag belts. So I think with this, it kind of brings both of them into the forefront of the heavyweight division now. And FTR, I think they got a mixed reaction, but I think that crowd, I think they were just pulling for kind of almost like pulling for the home team in a sense. But it's FTR, got a great reaction. I feel like that they made their mark in the Tokyo Dome for sure. It's kind of like two old school tag. Bishimon's got an old school style to them in a sense with Goto and Yoshihashi, and then of course FTR with that classic Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Brainbusters, Midnight Express style. I think it fit perfectly in that match.
Yeah, and I was not familiar with Yoshihashi, but when I saw him come out and his gear was styled after a Japanese armor, the Yoroi, I was instantly like, okay, this is my favorite dude. Like, I've had the opportunity to wear like real armor in Japan. The shit's heavy, but it's also very flexible and mobile. Like, you're very mobile in it. And his gear, if you paid attention to the way the flaps and everything were designed, they were very similar to that type of armor. And I just thought it was cool. And his forearms were some of the hardest fitting forearms I saw in the pay-per-view. I was like, holy crap. So I'm a new fan, definitely, of that tag team. And of course, they did win the titles from FTR. I'm also a huge fan of FTR as people. I had the opportunity to talk to Dax at WrestleCade this year. And just a quality human. I'm a big fan of him as a person. And I think I still feel like they are the best tag team in the world, for me personally. And if I were to book any tag team match, it would be them plus insert Usos, Briscoes, whoever, pick somebody, right? And so I just think that their psychology and the way that they worked with these guys in this match was just so solid. There were no holes in it at all.
The only thing that made the reaction probably not what people expected of FTR is because they were so decorated and had championships in so many different companies, they weren't able to be in New Japan as much as people would have wanted them to or would have liked them to, especially as IWGP Tag Team Champions. Had they been allowed to be in World Tag League, I feel like the Japanese fans would have, one, fallen in love with them, but two, they would have had the opportunity to make their name I mean, not that they're not known in Japan, because they were in WWE, they were in NXT, they've been there before, if I'm not mistaken. But it's one of those things where this was, as you said, when we opened the section, it was very much it was just about the wrestling. And also, I would like to shout out to Ezra about acknowledging our champion Yoshihashi, but also Goto is a former Intercontinental champion, and I am a huge Vishimon fan, and I really love how far they've come since they've established themselves as a tag team.
Absolutely,
yes, and to the FTR point, it was also like you could see that they had a great match, but the travel for Cash Wheeler was just god awful, and thank you to Kevin Kelly for just putting it over when they were coming out during the entrance. How Cash had it took him 2 days to get there, multiple delayed flights. He had to drive 7 hours from Asheville to Atlanta, to fly from Atlanta, and just to get there like a half an hour before they went live, and then just go out there and do the match. It was just crazy travel. But I couldn't agree more with everything Ezra and Karen have said about it was just the spirit of the fight. And to Karen's point, I agree with her. If they were allowed to actually be there for World Tag League, they would have gotten more over with the Japanese crowd, and it would have definitely had more love and admiration for them.
Agreed. So our next match, and this was interesting to me because we don't get to see inaugural titles all that much, especially in a promotion with a history as rich as New Japan. But this was the inaugural World Television Championship, and this was Tama Tonga versus Carl Anderson. We spoke about it briefly earlier.
The World Television title was Ren Narita versus Zack Sabre Jr.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're right. I got my thing wrong. It is Ren Narita versus Zack Sabre Jr. I thought this match was fast paced, but I don't think that they overpaced it. I expected this to be more of a, I hate the term spot fest, but I expected it to be more of that. And there was more psychology in this match than I'd expected. I liked it. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty solid match, and I didn't expect it to be a spot fest at all because Ren Narita is a student of the one, the only Katsuyori Shibata, and Shibata is, as many of you know, is one of the masters of the ring as far as Japanese wrestling goes, and that man knows psychology. He knows how to build a match. He knows how to do everything right. And when you're not only that, but when you're with a guy like Zack Sabre Jr., who is the best technical wrestler on the freaking planet. Far none. Trent is going to be happy that I said that. It just makes for a perfect match between the two because you got Ren Narita who learns the ground game and can strike just like Zack Sabre Jr. can. I thought this was a great match. I loved how Zack kept working on Narita, kept working on his arm, and kept targeting that arm, and how Narita had to fight underneath to get back into it. But in the end, it ended up being the technical wizard who ended up getting the submission victory. But I thought it was a good match. I thought they did a great job. I think it was the right move giving the title to Zack Sabre Jr. because Narita just got back from excursion a few months ago. And I think he needs more time to build himself further to get into a title picture more. And that's no slight on Narita. I think he's a legitimate badass, and I think he's gonna be a force to be reckoned with very soon. And also, we got that special moment at the end where Zack returned to TDMK. Because if people know your history about that group and that team, when Pro Wrestling Noah was being invaded by Suzuki-gun at the same time, Zack was put in as a member of TDMK. So to have that kind of connection back in there, and now he's known as the front man, Zack Sabre Jr., the front man of TDMK, ever since Jonah left to go back to WWE. I think it makes sense, and it makes perfect sense. And they had a good match, and I was very impressed with Ren Narita's performance.
What I loved about this match, it was basically the battle for Katsuyori Shibata's love from his two favorite sons. Shibata was at ringside in Japanese commentary for this match. Mm-hmm. And for those who are maybe new to this, when Shibata was finally medically cleared to come back, he had a 5-minute exhibition, and his partner that he handpicked was Zack Sabre Jr. They had bangers back before his head injury, back over at Rev Pro UK. And Ren Narita, they literally named him the son of strong style. He is the heir apparent of everything Katsuyori Shibata. Before Shibata decided to be like, oh no, I can still go. I can still wrestle. It's fine. But yeah, this match was exactly what it needed to be. I love that the TV title has a 15-minute time limit that is transparent. They're working, that was the whole thing during that tournament, is that everybody had to work for the time limit. I do hate that they've removed the stipulation that they had for the tournament, which was if it went to a time limit draw, they'd flip a coin, and whoever picked the right side of the coin was the one who would advance. So now it's for this title, it's going to be moving forward, apparently, that if it's a time limit draw, there'll be an automatic rematch at a future time and date. Seeing Zack join TMDK, my Noah heart just was so it was 18 times full. It was so great. Because TMDK was actually in the Noah Dojo before Zack showed up in 2012, maybe. So they've known each other for over 10 years, and it just makes me so happy to see Mikey and Shane back in Japan and now in New Japan. I have chills. I loved everything about this match.
just I have no words. Just in general, Zach and Narita is going to learn so much from Zach if they just keep going back and forth. And sorry, Trenda, I don't like Zack Sabre Jr. as much as you do, but I got to give him his props. He's a great wrestler. He's a great technical wrestler. Perfect guy to put the title on, and perfect time to reunite him with TMDK and Mikey and Shane. That since Suzuki-gun recently, disbanded, that was great. And just to go a little bit further, the match that Zach and Mikey and Shane had the next night, New Year's Dash, and then bringing in, Ichiban Sweet Boy as Zach's young lion was just hilarious, and I loved it. And just so happy to see Zach having fun again with TMDK.
I love. He grabbed Kosuke Fujita and said, "Fuck you, Mox. This is my young boy."
Yeah.
The thing that broke my heart about that was that they also, Ryohei Oiwa was the other one who impersonated Zach, and he was just kind of left at ringside being like, but take me with you. What about me?
That hurt. Yeah,
like,
that hurt.
My heart.
Yeah, that hurt. But definitely Fujita as his young boy, great.
Nice. So now let's talk about this is what I meant to say. This was Tama Tonga versus Carl Anderson for the Never Openweight Championship. And one of the things that stuck out to me as a casual fan was, we talk about Japanese fans reacting differently. There's just the culture's different. They're quieter for some matches and louder for other matches. The heel heat that Carl Anderson got was probably some of the loudest I heard of the night. I was genuinely surprised at how reactive the crowd was for this, especially the pre-match stuff. Is this indicative of how he normally was? Because I wasn't a Bullet Club guy. So did he bring that attitude back? Because I personally haven't seen him get that reaction in an American crowd.
Yeah, Carl Anderson has always been that type of heel. He's always been cocky, arrogant, does whatever he wants. He's there to make the most money. He's there to, take home the biggest paycheck he can. The Machine Gun's always been the Machine Gun, even more so now after having the success he's had in New Japan and WWE and Impact. I think it's just elevated that character even more and made it just more obnoxious and more and especially with the whole thing surrounding, him quote unquote holding the Never Openweight title hostage. In a sense, and Carl, and the antics at the beginning, striking Tama with the Never Openweight title, and then laying him out with the Bernard driver on the entrance ramp that Leo Rush split his face completely open into 4 pieces on. I thought it was a great moment to get Carl, and you heard those loud boos. I couldn't believe that. I know how big of a heel he is, but to hear those audible boos, it was so cool because. You got to think, we haven't heard loud crowds like this, booing like this in almost 3 years. So I thought the match overall was really good. It was another great match between them two. Of course, them two being, friends since 2011, 2012, knowing each other forever. Carl being his senpai and all that stuff. It just makes sense. And, of course, the gun stun at the end was a little sloppy. It looked a little botched, but, stuff like that in the match happens. Not everything's going to be perfect, but I thought it was a good match, very physical, great comeback from Tama. The tease of the gun stun throughout multiple times I thought was a great sell to the point where it actually got hit. But, yeah, we'll see what happens going on, and congrats to Tama, man. Tama's been one of my favorite guys since I first started watching New Japan, not only because of his attitude, but also because he's the best defensive wrestler. If you notice the way he moves in the ring and he counteracts people's clotheslines and people's elbows and stuff when he's running around the ring and he's able to slide through, he's so good at that. And to me, he's gotten better ever since he left Bullet Club. As a singles competitor, he's really stood out. And I think him getting back the title, I hope this eventually elevates him further and gets him back into the forefront. Because like Trent said, Karen said in the pre-show, earlier, he was treading water for a while after that G1. And I think hopefully with him winning his title, he can get back into the forefront. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved the whole story. Just like you said, Ezra. Them, Carl being his senpai and Tama being in the dojo from even before they started Bullet Club, and it's just come full circle. And to your question when we started Front Row about Carl, he was always the mouthpiece of Bullet Club from the start all the way up until it. He was the one. He did all the talking in the ring. He did all the introductions. He got all the heat by the crowd. He got the heat, back in the backstage comments after the matches, everywhere. When Bullet Club was firing on all cylinders before him and Doc left, he was the one that was always getting all the heat because he was the mouthpiece. And it just it made me happy to see the fans finally being able to cheer like that again and just boo him, because them knowing how much of a heel he was from when he was there and still showing it to him now, it was amazing.
One of the things that the concept during the pandemic for the last couple of years in Japan, Tanahashi minted as pro wrestling savings, because they weren't able to cheer, they weren't able to use their voices for a very long time. So they said, just take for the longest time, take every single cheer and boo that you've had over the years, and just hold on to them, because one day New Japan will allow cheering again. And this was one of those instances where it was just President Obari went to the Japanese government to, petition regulations to what they can and can't do so they could allow cheering at this event. And I feel like all those boos that they had been holding on for the last 3 years, they're just like, all right, our time has come to rise up and boo the heels. So it was just great to be able to, one, hear those reactions again, but also knowing how, if you were to tell me about this time last year that Tama Tonga would spend 2022 getting kicked out of Bullet Club, tagging with Tanahashi, and beating Okada in the G1, I wouldn't believe any of that. So it's one of those things where it's just there's so much going on for him that now that, him and Carl have finally, they closed this chapter together. It was a great way to put him over. I wish that this would have been the story they told the entire time, and not that Tama had to get the belt to drop the belt to, you know what I mean? I wish Carl would have taken the belt off of somebody else and made this the moment where everything starts coming up Tama. So hopefully this year, the story becomes that Tama gets more than one defense with this belt. I need him to go at least until the end of the New Japan Cup. Give him a couple of months, give him a couple of defenses with it. But it's one of those things where he's worked so hard for so long to become a singles champion, especially with his brother being out with the knee injury, that it's they need to start putting the company needs to start putting their money where their mouth is and believe in his ability to be a singles champion.
Agreed. And so the next match on the card, we could talk a little bit about, is a 6-man tag, obviously, with Keiji Muto. This was, I believe, his last New Japan match in the Tokyo Dome, right? Teaming with Tanahashi and Umino versus LIJ, was Naito, Sonata, and Bushi. So, Karen, just your thoughts on Muto retiring, and what's sort of the importance of this match.
The importance of this match is, one, it is Keiji Muto's last match in New Japan. The focus of this match was the past, the present, and the future of New Japan. Keiji Muto is very much a name that is synonymous with the past. Tanahashi, the ace, his successor, is very much the name of the present, even though it's starting to wind down a bit. And that comes from someone who is a diehard Tanahashi fan. But the fact that Shota Umino came back from excursion in November, and he was in the semi-main event of historic crossover against Will Ospreay, only to be followed up with a upper main card Wrestle Kingdom debut alongside Tanahashi and Muto, means the company has big plans for him.
Oh yeah.
And I am so excited for it.
Oh, I agree 100%. I've always been a fan of Shota Umino, even before the whole Moxley thing. I thought, as a young lion, I thought he was going to be one of the big time ones, and I agree that there's a lot of great plans for him. And I'm glad that they gave him the pinfall and all that stuff. I thought it was a great showcase for him, and they gave him the rub there and passing the torch kind of onto him to be the next big guy in the company. He has the look, he has the ability, and just I see him moved out to still being able to snap off that dragon screw leg whip like it's 1991 again. I thought was freaking incredible. I popped every time he did it too. It was so cool. And if in him being his last match, like you said, he's synonymous with wrestling in general, Japanese wrestling more so. But if this is his final match, definitely this is a good way for him to go out against Lij, against Naito, Sonata, and Bushi. And and I thought it was very well put together and showcased the strengths of everybody in the match and not just overshadow one singular person. So I thought it was a great match overall between both teams.
Neil?
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. It was, and it was insane and just awesome, to see the year start, and sad to see Keiji Muto's last match in New Japan, but just the man's killing it. I mean, from the match to start the year in Noah, this match, and then, the match that he's going to have in Noah with Sting and Darby and the 6-man, just, I love it. And I'm just absolutely sad to see him retire, but it is, he's getting up there, and it is, his time. But like, the match was just great. And the way, how Karen said that they bookend the past, the present, and the future, it was just amazing. And they couldn't be happier to see it. And it was funny to see the antics of Naito and the great Muta, Keiji Muta, in the match. It's just fun, just hilarious. And just like Ezra said, the dragon screw leg whip was just classic.
Yeah, so it was definitely history. We got to witness history, and it's pretty cool. So this next match was for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. It was a 4-way, Takahashi versus Ishimori, El Desperado, Master Wato, and Ishimori. I did not get a chance to see this match all the way through, so I'm going to rely on you guys to bring me up to speed.
It was your prototypical 4-way match for the Junior Heavyweight Championship. A lot of spots, a lot of great wrestling, a lot of false finishes. If you know from history in the past with the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship, whether it's the 4-way with Ospreay, Marty, Kushida, and Hiromu back in 2018, or any of the past times they've done these Junior Heavyweight 4-ways, it's usually crazy. It's usually hard hitting, but it's also very wild. In the way
very fast pace.
But I thought everybody showcased what they had. Master Wato looked great. I thought, especially being the story of him and his rise to becoming a bigger star in the making, and and he's really showcased what he's got. And of course, all the other competitors, being former junior heavyweight champions themselves, and they fought for the title on numerous occasions. It was just an overall great match, and Hiromu getting it, I thought they would give it to either Despe or give it to Master, or even give it to Master Wato. But you know what? Giving it to Hiromu, I guess, is a smart move by them. But congrats to Hiromu on that. Yeah, but like I said, it was wild and crazy, but it was another great junior heavyweight 4-way. So
yeah, Karen.
It was one of those matches where it was if you like chaotic, high speed, if you love like the X Division, if you love 205 Live, if you love like high speed hijinks, this is your jam. I thought it was going to be Master Wato's year. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna be like, oh no, I knew it was going to be Hiromu because lol, Hiromu wins every time. But it was one of those things where as some of my friends who are actual wrestlers have told me, it isn't always who goes over, but who gets over in the match. And these like Ishimori, Desperado, and Hiromu sold heaven and hell below to put Master Wato over in this match, to make him look like the credible fourth contender in this match, because for the longest time it was supposed to be Kushida. And a lot of people, trying to find someone who can fill Kushida's shoes is a very tall ask, but I feel like they did the right thing in picking someone. Now, my only hope with Hiromu's reign now is that they don't make him keep the belt until Super Juniors. I need someone else besides Hiromu to have the belt in 2023.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Agreed. Go ahead, Neil.
Yeah. Just I was kind of hoping I like you said, Karen. Lol, Hiromu wins every time. Yeah, it is what it is. I was kind of hoping that either Ishimori would retain, or they'd give it to Despy, or they'd put the shock of giving it to Master Wato after they kept telling the story about how Wato beat Ishimori, to set up to get to the point where Taiji was just like, you know what, screw it. It'll be the four of us at Wrestle Kingdom, So I was really hoping that maybe somebody different, but Hiromu winning, okay, good. The guy's kind of like the face of the division, but definitely somebody needs to step up and take it off of him and let that person have a lengthy run this year.
Yeah, and so that sort of brings us into our next match, the semi-main event. And this match, to me, I mean, they've already set the bar for match of the year. Like, this is one of those historic, flawless, just storytelling, epic matches. I couldn't have loved this anymore. And Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay put on a match that, again, like, we know who these guys are. You have high expectations going into it. But like I've said, the pacing had a nice heartbeat. There was slow spots. There was these big moments, these big explosive action time, like everything from Kenny Omega's shining spot with the table, to the stuff on the outside to the exposed turnbuckles with Will Ospreay. That was all timed really well. And I thought it was incredible the way that these two worked together. Again, I had high expectations going into it. And you had told me without spoilers, Neil, that it was exceeded expectations.
Absolutely, it did. So Ezra will know, because we watched it together live on Zoom with RA and Steven, and shout out to Andre, producer from Busted Open. He was on with us. But when it came time for the match, I was starting to get a little tired, because it was like 5:30 in the morning, and I'm like, okay, but it's Kenny and Will, and this is the match they promoted, and holy crap, it did not disappoint. We were going insane, with every spot, just watching it, just like sitting there like, what are they going to do next? The table shot and putting Will through the table, and then Kenny just stomping a hole through the table onto Will, and then the exposed turnbuckle spot, and Will just fighting for his life and being bloodied like crazy. That match was just incredibly insane. Definitely the match of the night for me. And I laughed because Andre and his friend said to us, well, how are Okada and Jay White going to follow that? And I'm like, don't worry, they will. they will, but they're not. They're not, but they will. But it's like that match, we just sat there in awe of it, and it was just like completely mind-blowing of an amazing match. And just so happy to see the Kenny Omega of old Like if we could just see that Kenny Omega here, like even just a little, be amazing. Be so good.
Yeah. And so, Karen, I'm gonna pick your brain about the psychology of this match, because it was very old school to me, where pick a body part, like Kenny Omega targeted Will Ospreay's back throughout the whole match, based on his injuries and stuff. And I just thought that the story was told really well. And just your thoughts on that.
I will be the first person to openly admit, over the last few years, I am not the biggest fan of Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega. And it has taken a lot for me to come to terms with the fact that this match is by far one of the best matches I have seen in my entire life. And it's one of those things that there are layers upon layers upon layers, starting with, how when Ospreay came into the company, Kenny was the rising star. When Kenny left, the story is that he took Ospreay aside and was like, "Oh, we lost Neil."
Sorry.
He took Ospreay aside and had the heart to heart, being like, "You're the one who has to put it's on you. It's you and Jay White are going to be the ones that are going to have to take the company moving forward." And Kenny went off and did AEW. Ospreay did what he could in the last few years between multiple championships, multiple tournaments, whatever have you. But the missing layer, or the secret layer, as you would, is the way that Ospreay's rivalry with Kota Ibushi plays into this match.
Mm-hmm.
That, back when it was like when they were fighting over the Intercontinental Championship, when they were fighting over the Never Openweight Championship, it was one of those things where the unofficial fourth man in the match besides the time limit was Kota Ibushi. Mm-hmm. And the way he fits into both Ospreay's journey in New Japan, as well as, his long history that predates their time in New Japan with Kenny Omega. If I could take one thing out of the match, I didn't need the blood. There was more than enough psychology, history, crazy stuff with that table. There was more than enough, especially after the way Lio Rush got busted open accidentally in the first match. If this was an accident that busted him wide open like Jon Moxley and bleeds all over the place, that's one thing. But if this was a blade job, I really wish he didn't feel the need to have gone that far with it, because the match itself, even if you take the blood out of it, spoke for itself.
And I will agree. And I want to. Sorry, go ahead, Neil.
And Neil asked, well, how can Jay White and Okada finish after this? They finished. They had a good match. But it was you couldn't top the semi-main event in the show. There's no way. And I say that begrudgingly, as someone who's had a very difficult relationship with Kenny Omega and Ospreay over the years as a fan.
I'm completely there with you, Karen. I've never been a Will Ospreay fan. Just something, from seeing him back when he was a junior, when he first came on, and then seeing him in Ring of Honor, and I'm just like, I'm not a fan. But he slowly, like glacier slow, brought me in, and I'm still not a fan, but I'm getting there more and more. And good on New Japan for giving him a faction and letting him be a leader and letting him grow and everything. But it's just, I like more of the people in his group than I like him.
Yeah, and I just 1 second. I want to get your thoughts on that, Ezra, but I want to speak to Karen's point and to Guido's point. Guido's saying that the match did need some blood just because of the hatred. I agree that blood in some matches enhances the match when it is naturally occurring. In this match, I don't think that they needed to have the blade job to have the amount of blood. Kenny's eye was all I needed. His right eye was swollen. You could see the damage from the intensity of the match. Both of them were beat up and bruised. That's personally all I needed. If somebody gets scraped up or something, that's fine. It is what it is. But I didn't need it in this match. I agree, Karen.
And the other, sorry. Cut you off. The other thing is that if there's a rematch, what do they have left to do? That's where I get that, for me as a fan who is squeamish when it comes to blood, that's where it starts getting scary for me. Like, what risks are they going to take to prove the point that they can do better than this apparently 6.25 Meltzer scale busting rating with like all the salt-based stars? Like, what is left for them to do if they've already done all of this, you know?
That's very true.
Clearly, it's an exploding barbed wire death match.
Does it actually explode
Where's
this
the
time and not
kaboom?
like a little
Yes.
poof of smoke?
Yeah, where's the kaboom?
Boom.
Ez?
Oh man, where do I begin? Just a masterpiece of a match, man. Those guys put on the performance of their careers. You know, you look at, and you know what, and one thing I wanted to say, the way this match came out, the way the psychology came in, it speaks to two things. The ring general, the ring awareness, the ring IQ of Kenny Omega, and the maturity of Will Ospreay. Will has come so far since coming in as a junior heavyweight with the spots and doing all the flips and the dives. He still does it, but he's more psychologically there in putting it in where it counts and it's not gratuitous. He's putting more physical. He's being more physical. He's throwing more strikes, doing rest holds, doing things of that nature that build a match instead of going for twister sky press and then go on the other side hitting a shooting star. You know, he's really showcased as a wrestler how mature he is. And Kenny Omega, of course, is a ring general. The guy knows what he's doing, and the New Japan style is his bread and butter. You look at that match, you see the psychology of it. Man, it was perfect. Pacing down point, maneuvers down point. You couldn't have booked this match any better. Yes, the blood was definitely not needed. It could have gone without it. That could have been saved for maybe later on down the road. But you know what? In the long run, it's just a masterpiece of a match. And you look at when you look at both guys, and I got to give a shout out to the entrances of both men. You get Kenny Omega coming out to One Winged Angel from Final Fantasy VII, and Will Ospreay bringing back Elevated by It Lives, It Breathes, his old theme song when he debuted. I thought it was a nice little touch of him bringing back the Aerial Assassin and Kenny bringing back the Cleaner, the real version of the Cleaner, to do battle. And it made for such a grandiose moment and an epic match. That, to me, the pacing and all that reminds me of when I saw Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne for the WWE UK title at NXT TakeOver Chicago.
Mhm.
I thought the pacing, the psychology, the different maneuvers, the overall blending of styles, I thought that all that was just dead on perfect. And that's the same way with this match. Couldn't have been any better. To me, match of the night in 4 days in, match of the year so far.
Absolutely.
Yep. So we should talk about the main event, which was sort of, I won't say it was a letdown, but to Karen's point earlier, I think we kind of knew what we were going to get here.
Yeah.
And it was very good, but it was like a lot of other, you know, it was like Stone Cold Steve Austin having to follow Mick and Undertaker. Like, good luck. You know, it was a very good match, but it was not on the level of what we had just seen. So credit to both men for what they did. And I do think it was interesting that you mentioned that what was the semi-main was like 33 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
And with the exception of that one blood spot, like I couldn't find anything to take out. Like all of it made sense. And to me, the main event felt like a greatest hits match.
Yes. Because I was like, oh, okay, you know, maybe they'll do something different, maybe they won't. But even if they did, it's the fifth. It was the sixth time that Okada and Jay White have faced off.
Actually, it was the seventh time.
Seventh time. Okay, see, even more. You know, seventh time. Like, you know, do something different. Like, you know, it would have been nice if Jay kept the belt and, you know, you brought somebody else out to challenge instead of having Okada win and then Shingo comes out to challenge Okada. Like, maybe you could have had Jay keep the belt and Shingo could have came out to challenge Jay. But the match in itself, when I said earlier about Andre's friend and Karen said that Okada and Jay weren't going to be able to follow it, they didn't, but they still went out and they gave it their all, and it was still a very good match, and just honestly, I understand it's for the World Heavyweight title, and that should be the final match, but really, Kenny and Will should have been the main event. But Jay and Okada, their chemistry is just absolutely amazing in there together. And you know you're going to get a good, strong style, classic psychology, hard-hitting, 30, 35-minute match, and you're not gonna say no to it. You're gonna enjoy it and love it, but it's just they needed to add another wrinkle almost to try and top Kenny and Will, or maybe just go on before them.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It was a very formulaic match. I don't get me wrong, I loved it. I thought it was a great match. I thought it was really, really strong. Both men, they've had, like I said, 6 previous matches, and they don't complain, or they don't ever, it's never going to be boring in a sense, because they're all really, really great in what they do. But it's very formulaic. It's, we've seen this matchup before, but both men gave it their all. They left everything in the ring. Okada's champion, and I think they made the right move, considering with this being the 50th anniversary and the unfortunate passing of Antonio Inoki. It made the most sense for Okada to get the belt, because he is kind of that next representation of Antonio, of that legacy. And it was cool the way they sent out the pay-per-view with the paying tribute to Inoki at the end by doing his famous speech at the end, and it was a great way to close out the pay-per-view. I do agree, if you were to book it a different way, maybe had Ospreay Omega be the main event, yes, but for what it was and for the unfortunate circumstances that befell it, I felt like it was the right way to close it out.
Yeah, Karen?
Very much like my lol Hiromu comment. When it comes to Dome season, it's death, taxes, and lol Kazuchika Okada main events the Dome. Because I love Okada, and I had a feeling that when he won the G1 for the second time back to back, that this was going. In addition to opening 2022 as the World Heavyweight Champion, losing the belt to Jay, that the story was always going to be more about Okada trying to again, when it comes to balancing the scales, try to finally start balancing the scale back towards his favor, because he fights Jay a lot, but he doesn't win against Jay a lot, and that's the story that they've been telling with the two of them. Again, I agree completely with Ezra about it being, the golden anniversary, passing of Inoki, the fact that Okada has been dressing his entrance gear for the last year like Antonio Inoki's entrance robe with the scarf, the fact that in the Dome, where he is usually one of the more colorful, costumed characters that you'll see in the ring, he walked out in all black like Antonio Inoki did. There was no way that he was not closing this show. When it comes to Kenny Omega versus Ospreay, had it been a 2-Dome setup, you could have easily had Kenny and Ospreay close the first night and have Okada Jay close the second night, and there wouldn't be such a tight comparison between the two matches. I was so exhausted by the time it got to the entrance that Jay White's entrance put me to sleep. I fell asleep on the couch right before I was supposed to start working. And Jay White's entrance music is not the most soothing music. It's very much like, is there a serial killer in my house music? So it was just, they did all of their greatest hits, like you guys said. Had there been that X factor in the match of something I hadn't seen before, had Okada beat Jay with a Blade Runner instead of a Rainmaker, had Jay done a top rope something, maybe I would have been like, yes, all the yes. But I've seen this match before. I've seen the emotions. I've seen the collapsing when he goes to do the Rainmaker. I've seen it. It's not that and I know it works for a lot of people. But much like Ospreay and Omega, Jay is another one that I'm very up and down about. So it was I'm glad Okada's passed him in this chapter. I need Okada to move on to something else. And, going against Takagi, who was the champion going into last year's Dome, the actual champion, is a good start.
Yep. Well, all in all, a pretty exciting show. As I said, I'm a casual fan, and I really enjoyed this one. I'm probably going to pay closer attention to the product, as these guys will help keep me honest. And Karen, I'm sure you'll keep me honest as well. Anything else you guys want to cover about this show specifically before we bring all of our other folks back in?
If you're new to New Japan, I would also suggest watching the Antonio Inoki Memorial Exhibition match that was on the part of the pre-show.
Yes.
Tiger Hattori is one of the most decorated, longest running referees in Japan, and he retired several years ago. He came out of retirement for this match, and it has Yuji Nagata, Minoru Suzuki, Satoshi Kojima, Togi Makabe, a very young and spry Tatsumi Fujinami, and Tiger Mask. It's not the longest match. It's not the most exciting match, but these are men who, it's the Inoki Memorial year. These are men that their careers they have the careers they had because of his involvement in their careers. So go watch it.
Yes.
Yeah. Otherwise, outside of that, definitely watch New Year's Dash.
Yes.
There's a lot of great matches in it, including the Omega Powers, if you want to call it that. Omega and Okada teaming up in the main event against Jeff Cobb and Aaron Hanare from the United Empire. Great match. Great shock to Omega showing up, even though they said he flew home. Just an overall great night of surprising wrestling action. Check it out on NJPW World, definitely.
Yeah, and to Ezra's point about New Year's Dash, to start the show, the opening match of the show, I wasn't too happy about one of those teams. Karen knows which one I'm talking about. But to see the aftermath of it, to see Suzuki come out and make the save for Ren Narita and El Desperado come out there too. It was just great to see. Wonderfully done mystery card show for a New Year's Dash. Other than that, if people haven't gone and seeked out the Pro Wrestling Noah from the first of Great Muta versus Shinsuke Nakamura, watch that match. That was incredible. And if I could front row one more to the point earlier about Stardom, go out there, Stardom World, the Queendom show from 2022 that ended last year. Yes, the commentary is not in English, but you don't need that. Watch the whole show, but most importantly, watch the main event. Shiri and Julia absolutely just killed each other for almost 40 minutes. Just a phenomenal match.
For those interested in getting into Japanese wrestling, just remember, the yen's really weak right now. So your American and international dollars and currencies, get these promotions for very cheap. Yes, you may have to buy multiple subscriptions or, make arrangements, but there's so much great wrestling. And to touch on the Noah part, Marufuji and Kenta team up for the first time in over 10 years. And Marufuji's getting ready to celebrate his 25th anniversary. Kenta just celebrated his 20th during the pandemic. So go check it out. Yes. There's all kinds of cool stuff.
Yep, absolutely.
I love it. Thanks, guys. Karen, you are more than welcome to hang with us and talk some more. But why don't you put yourself over? Where can people find you?
If you are interested in my wrestling journey, head over to postwrestling.com. I do mainly Stardom coverage, but in 2023 that is expanding. You might see my name on some New Japan coverage and some Noah coverage as well. I'm going to try to do more with the Japanese wrestling scene over at Post. I do have a column that was Dream Slam Weekly. Now it is going to be Dream Slam Monthly. And if you're into the Twitter, the Twitch, the Instagram, and or YouTube, you can find me at Hey Karen Sensei. Give me a follow. Come hang. Ask questions about wrestling in Japan.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate your time. All right, folks, let's bring back in Tony, Deb, and Mike. What's up, people?
Hey, you all had to take a nap. Hey, I live on the East Coast. This is my New Japan pillow. It's where I fall asleep, watch it, waiting for New Japan.
He's got that dental floss toothpick again. Yeah.
That's right,
Oh
man.
my god.
Honestly,
I'm
with that
losing-
hair, he looks a little bit more like Kenny Omega on those
I'm
glasses.
losing my chismo and Ensure.
Sure.
It's Centrium.
Oh,
All right, guys.
Not
So
really.
let's
Karen, it's great. And I'm a new New Japan. And Japan, Neil and Ezra got me into it now. That's it.
I'm glad. Welcome to the bandwagon.
Front row.
I'm proud to
say in
I'm proud to
Japanese.
say that I was one of Karen's first meet and greets.
Actually held at the front row dining room table.
Indeed. Yep, I have it right on display right behind me. So let's jump into some of the other topics. I know like everyone's covered the Vince McMahon stuff to death. I don't think we're going to have a whole lot of takes on it that others haven't, but really from what I understand now, the basics are Vince is back in the WWE as an executive on the board. He is not the chairman. Stephanie is the chairwoman and co-CEO, and Nick Khan is also the co-CEO. And from what I've understood is there are no changes to the direction of the company from a creative standpoint, and there are some discussions around the possibility of a sale. That's really all I have about it. I mean, people are going to speculate all they want, but that's what we know right now. There's been SEC filings to support that stuff. You guys have some thoughts on it. That's cool. But for me personally, it's all behind the scenes. And as long as Stephanie and Triple H are in charge, I'm probably going to keep watching the product. And, Nick Khan, obviously. I like the direction of the company overall over the last 4 to 6 months, and I'm happy to keep watching.
Yeah. We'll let the dirt sheet speculate on all that other stuff about what they think is happening and all the speculation that'll come along with it. We'll just report the facts, and we'll just keep enjoying WWE because it's really above what's going on is above our level. We're down here supposed to be watching what's on our screen on WWE television. So, that's the way I look at it anyway.
Yeah. In no other company or industry do regular consumers of the products care about who is on the board. Like most other company that you use their products or, watch their products on TV, we don't know who's on the board of NBC Universal. We don't know who's on the board of, the food that we buy. Like it shouldn't matter to us as fans. Like you said, front row, as long as the product stays the same, the direction of the company is staying the same. Why do we care?
Right.
Well, I think I will add there are some examples where like an Elon Musk, who's such a big presence, like there are people going to feel certain ways about public personalities, and they may spend their dollars differently, right? And again, for me, like WWE's chairwoman is Stephanie McMahon, and I'm happy to continue to consume their product for now. That could change,
right?
But to speak about the product, they're giving us some really cool shit. Like again, this week, the last 2 weeks, we saw the Bloodline continue to entertain us. We saw the return of Charlotte Flair, which I think was a big, desperately needed part of SmackDown. So let's talk about a couple of those things. From the women's division perspective, how did you guys feel about Charlotte returning and challenging and winning that title so quickly?
Yeah, definitely. I was very excited. Seth and I were out to dinner when that SmackDown was on, but the bar that we were at was playing it on their big screen TV. So I was watching SmackDown, but they didn't have the sound on. And I saw Charlotte come out, and I popped huge sitting at the restaurant. Got home and rewound it enough to be able to watch that and then catch up. I think it's absolutely hilarious that people are like doubling down on their hatred for her for some reason. It's just insane to see people on Twitter acting like she doesn't deserve anything, blah, blah, blah. and let's be real, let's be honest, you know, she has put in the work to become the what a lot of people consider the best, you know, women's wrestler. She's put in the work. She has far beyond gotten out of her father's shadow. So anybody that's hating on her is just hating.
Agreed.
Yep.
Mike?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. You know, it's just too bad that she's the best wrestler in the world. So it's just too bad.
Yeah.
We could cut it short. We don't have to, you know. She don't need any more smoke blown. You know, she's a star. Did you hear that freaking pop?
But remember, she can't draw.
Yeah, and Carrie, we also talk about her promo on SmackDown last night. I've had the opportunity to speak to her very briefly once at a meet and greet. I don't know her at all, but she was very kind, very nice, very sort of subdued. The person that I heard in the ring on Friday night was a lot more like the real person than the big character that we've seen over the last however many years. And it rang true to me. Like there was an authenticity to her promo that was a very babyface promo, and which I think is a very new direction for her. So I'm kind of excited for it.
Also, when she looks into the camera, when she's doing that promo in the ring and not against somebody, when she's doing a promo, and then when she makes eye contact in the camera, she's talking to us. Like, you know what I mean? It feels that way to me, at least. You know, and I don't know. You know, and I know I've never met her. I know Front Row. You said you've met her, and you like she was one of the only like, and you've met so many wrestlers over the years. And when you said when you met her, you were like a little almost fanboyish or starstruck.
She's a big presence in real life. Yeah.
Yeah.
But she was so nice. She was so, again, it was only maybe 2 minutes or 3 minutes at a meet and greet, but she was very interactive. And I saw her with the kids and like not the Charlotte character. I saw Ashley Flair. Like I saw the person. And it was so it was really cool to see, you know, to see that come to life on screen, because I don't think that they've wanted to portray her as anything but the queen up until now.
Yeah, I just want to interrupt. I'm sorry, Front Row, but also, you know what? This woman, her brother died, and she made a pact that she would go through with this, and damn it, she fucking did it. She did what she promised her brother. She promised her brother on it, you know. And if that doesn't do it for you, then you know it's the same thing with Roman. How do you hate this effing guy? The guy came back from leukemia twice. You know, you know, fuck you if you don't like them. You know what? That's it. Too bad.
Elder rant.
Sorry.
But yeah, so there's a stark contrast. So we're just going to be all over the place here for a few minutes. There's a stark contrast to me in the AEW women's division and the WWE women's division. You look at Raw, SmackDown, and even NXT, and the women's divisions are presented correctly as credible athletes challenging for titles and feuds and all this other stuff that we like as wrestling. And then this week, AEW had Wednesday night Dynamite 9:23 women's match, 6 minutes. Half of it was in picture-in-picture. Friday night 10:23 we had on Rampage another women's match, 8 minutes. Half of it was or 3 minutes of it was in picture-in-picture and in commercial break. Then the next show right after that, Battle of the Belts, 11:23. It was another women's match for 8 minutes with half of it in picture-in-picture. It's so formulaic. And it's so disrespectful to everybody on that fucking roster. It makes me crazy every week. They have almost 30 women that work there, and they give them combined 5 to 7% of their TV time.
Yeah.
And I talk about it every week, and it's not getting any better.
Yeah, I agree. It's disappointing. It's disappointing to see the people and the personalities that we've grown to become a fan of. And, you know, they're not, you know, being featured. They're not being shown at all. It's just crazy that it's like it's almost like Tony Khan can only focus on one women's storyline at a time. Like, there's only one women's storyline. Well, two. But yeah, it's just crazy. However, shout out to the Renegade Twins who had a banger match.
Yeah, I do. I see Brent in the chat agrees with you, and I do want to give big credit to the Renegades because they got some real. They actually got, like, I think that match was 9 minutes, including the commercial, but they got a lot of offense in against, you know, two of the highest profile people in the women in the company, and they looked great. Like, they looked awesome in the ring. They were so. And shout out to Robin Renegade for those forearms, because I know she had. I think Thunder had taught her those forearms in training last year. And they're no joke. Like, she was knocking the shit out of Brett and Jamie. I was like, okay, here we go.
Not to mention the chops.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I agree, Dad. I was very happy to see them get such a high profile moment.
Yeah.
Because previously on the other shows, they had not gotten much time. Sorry, Tony.
No, I was just going to say, not to be outdone, we get an Elder rant and a front row rant consecutively. That's awesome.
Yes, 2 F-bombs.
It's a new year. New year, new me. Who dis? It's amazing.
He's fucking front row from now on. Front fucking row. Nah, he's the guy that reins us in, though, really.
But I will say this. Yeah, somebody has. Not me. There was a lot of fun stuff that did happen on AEW this week. I thought that Darby Allin had probably maybe his best promo ever, because I took him really seriously after that promo. I was like, oh, okay, we're not messing around. He's like really focused this time. And I know, Deb, you're a big Darby fan. There he is.
Yeah. I know that there are people out there who were griping about, you know, Darby being so small going up against someone like Samoa Joe. But I think that they put on a really great match that kind of helped balance that. And you know, I was really happy to see it. You guys know, you know, how much of a Darby fan I've been since the beginning. And you know, when he lost that championship, he had cut that promo saying, like, you know, I don't care about the AEW championship. I'm coming back for the TNT championship. And you know, it took a while, but he got it. He got his belt back in his hometown. Super, you know, the crowd was super hot for him. Like it made my cold black heart melt a little bit. That
I called it.
Yeah.
Did I not call it? I called
you did, but I already had a feeling he was going to be winning anyway. But yeah, I'm happy for him. I think going into 2023, the state of AEW, I think for the most part, I'm optimistic. Obviously, the biggest thing is the women's division needs, you know, a lot of work. But for the most part, I'm optimistic. I think they're headed in a good direction right now. All the belts are on, you know, AEW originals. So yeah, I'm excited for what this year brings to AEW. I'm excited to see them kind of get back on track. 2023 or 2022 is definitely like a growing pains year for them. A lot of turmoil, a lot of drama. So I'm really hoping they start to get back on track here.
Agreed.
Agreed.
It will be interesting because there's some bigger talents coming back on the women's division. You know, we have Chris Statlander's due back at some point, and I personally would like to see her challenge for that TBS title and maybe be the one to finally take that off of Jade. Obviously, Thunder's due back at some point when she's fully recovered from her back injuries. But there's been a seismic shift in the storytelling. I will give them credit that in the last 2 to 4 weeks, we've seen better storytelling than the previous few months. A lot of Dynamite this week did kind of make sense to me. I think I said to you guys the other night in Zoom, it was one of the better Dynamites we had seen in a while. Just strictly from a cohesive pacing perspective, it all sort of flowed better than usual. So I was glad to see that.
Yeah, I think even if you listen to Britt, she's cutting better promos. She's definitely upping her game. She is super freaking popular, and to see she's got to at least put over her opponents and make them look credible, and that's what we're seeing. I still would like to see Jamie Hayter out there in front and let her talk, because I think she can speak for herself anyway, and just let her come out there. But I'm still having a problem with Jade selling anything. But okay, they got the Jadeberg thing going, and it's 48. So please, hopefully 50 is going to be the number, because if they're going to go like I hope they're not going to go like 1,700,000 like they did with Goldberg.
173-0.
Whatever. After 5 minutes, I was asleep.
I don't think enough people talk about the fact that Asuka legitimately eclipsed his record, which was a kayfabe record.
Yeah.
Hers was not.
That's interesting.
She actually had matches.
Yeah, that's true. Some of them were squashes, because Asuka beat the shit out of you.
This is a good Bullet Club pillow, though, isn't it? Like, you do get a little sleepy, right?
Yeah.
Why not?
I do. So
that's
Deb,
from Mitch, too.
And Tony, I know we talked about this sort of on the pre-show, like the direction of a lot of the companies going into this year are pretty exciting. We talked about with Karen and Neil and Ez about the direction of New Japan and the different companies working together. I'm going to be very interested to see if in the Royal Rumble there's any sort of Forbidden Door entries.
That would be amazing.
That would be amazing. We had Mickey last year, so
and here's a little tease for everybody. This goes back to New Japan. At New Year's Dash, it was announced that Switchblade Jay White would take on Hikuleo in a loser leaves New Japan match. Now that match does not have a date on when that match will take place. It could be before the Rumble, it could be after. But we know from reports seen on the internet that of course it's been rumored that Jay White may show up at the Rumble, but it's also been rumored that WWE is interested in signing Hikuleo, who is of course the younger brother of Tama Tonga. And so anything is possible. Who knows if we'll see some Forbidden Door entries, if we'll see somebody from Impact, or we'll see somebody. It just depends on, working relationship, and it depends on who they can snag at the time. But the Royal Rumble's filled with surprises, so I expect something grandiose in either the women's or the men's. So can't wait for it.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about all that in our Royal Rumble preview show coming up in a few weeks. But for me personally, if you're going to put somebody in a spot in the Rumble, it's either a returning legend or somebody who's big enough to get a crowd reaction in a stadium or a large arena like that. Because if you bring someone in, it's no disrespect to Jay White at all, but the majority of WWE fans don't know who Jay White is. So I don't know that he would get 30 or 40,000 people losing their shit like they did for Edge or for Cena or someone big like that coming in, or when AJ debuted, things like that. So I am going to be excited to see who it is, if there's anybody specific. So what were some of the other topics that you guys wanted to cover for this week? I know we've kind of gone really long tonight. I don't want to keep folks too much longer. It's almost 2 hours. This is definitely the longest Nation's Corner we've done.
That's right.
Yeah.
So much happened in the last.
This is basically
month.
our Nation Sports Show Part 2.
I am hungry. I do need to eat at some point.
Should have ate before the show.
So I want to talk about Impact a little bit. I know a bunch of us have really started to get more into Impact. We have
oh my God.
We have Bully Ray, being Bully Ray. So it's definitely exciting Impact going into 2023. lots of good stuff happening. I'm super excited for the Friday the 13th pay-per-view Hard to Kill next week. So yeah, I think it's just an exciting time. We have wrestling like every single night, shows that excite us, and yeah, I'm really super excited for Impact. It's been great. What do you guys think?
Yeah, Bully is definitely bringing it. You know, we knew that he'd said on Busted Open that if he ever wanted to come back to, you know, wrestling, you know, and be a part of an organization, it would have to be whenever he had something, you know, productive to do, had a story to tell, and he's definitely doing it. I can't say that I'm on board with the, you know, unless it's leading to something, the friction between Bully and Tommy on screen and then on Busted Open. It's kind of, I don't know, it's wonky in a way, but I'm calling it. You heard it here, folks. I think Tommy Dreamer is going to turn heel next week at Hard to Kill.
Oh, okay.
I think it's leading to a heel turn from Tommy Dreamer. But I enjoyed the segment this last Thursday between Scott D'Amore and Bully Ray. I enjoyed that very much.
Yes.
So yeah, Bully's killing it on Impact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would definitely say Tommy he might be the Devon of the Aces and Eights, and and just turn. It's looking that way, and damn it, we're not even a week. What are we? 2 weeks? Not even 2 weeks into the new year, and Bully Ray, 2-time Hall of Famer, host of Busted Open Radio, freaking
Don't forget Deathmatch God,
the Deathmatch God, and what the hell, man? He's gonna be he's like heel of the year already. Listen, I'm sorry. I know everybody. I love MJF, but take a note. Everybody doesn't have to just be called a piece of shit. There's a way you can just sit there and impose yourself on somebody and get in their freaking head. And listen, I love Bully Ray, and I wish I was there to kick him in the balls when he was saying that shit about Tommy. And then poor Scott D'Amore. Oh my God, it's what so good, so good. I mean, that whole audience sounded like there was nobody cheering. There was no wise asses going, one more time. If there could have been one maybe, but who cares? I'm just saying there was nobody. It was pure heel. You suck, Bully.
I don't typically watch Impact, but you guys keep me up to date, and I see the clips, and I'm a fan of a lot of the performers who come from other places. When I saw that clip, and I sort of compared it in my mind to the stuff that MJF's doing, and we put over MJF because he's very good at his job. But like this recent feud he has going on with Bryan Danielson, it's rinse and repeat to me. It's his promos have become formulaic. He says the same 5 things, and it always ends with some sort of series of challenges to get to MJF. Bully's not like that. Bully's like as real as it gets, and I've only met him a couple times. I don't know him personally, but you guys have spent more time with him. There always seems to be an anger or violence right below the surface. Like you could piss him off very easily, but he's going to be nice to you now. But that could change in a heartbeat, and that's the vibe I get from him that I don't get from a lot of other people.
He's like, listen, he really isn't going to kill you. He isn't going to kill you, but it's still like it's like if you're whatever, Paul Sorvino, Tony Soprano. This is what it's like when you're with them, because he holds the fucking court. So what? That's it. He's
But you're never relaxed around him.
Yeah,
he's not a relaxing guy. Like you're sort of always on. There's always something that could happen in a moment.
Yeah,
it could be a fan, it could be a wrestler, it could be whatever. But I just feel like, and you get that on Impact. You get that with him. Like the stuff that I've seen, it feels very real to me because it is.
What if I put too much garlic in my meatballs? Why, he would have friggin' hated
me. One thing I will say about Bully, and this goes. This goes for on television. This goes for in real life. Bully commands respect. Period.
Yes, he does.
That's just the bottom line. He commands respect, and
Yes, he does.
you know, I feel sorry for people who are disrespectful to him anywhere, because Bully is not afraid to call you out on your shit.
Yeah. And in a way, actually, all three hosts from Busted Open, they in their own way, they command respect, because Tommy will just tune you the fuck out, and then you're just nothing to him. Bully, he might rip your head off and shit down your throat, and then Mark is just like, I mean, you got to be a fucking numb fucking skull to fucking look at him cross-eyed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless you're
I love Mark, but I would never want to get on his bad side.
No.
If he could bend a frying pan with his bare hands, imagine what he could do to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I think I'm all good.
Right.
But there's a lot of exciting things going on. I know I did want to touch briefly on the Mission Pro show that's coming up on February 11th. Kickstart My Heart. It was announced this week. This is crazy. So, like, if you watch the last pay-per-view, Silver Bells 2, there was a big confrontation between JP Harlow and Thunder Rosa, and JP's basically made the statement that he's the man of Mission Pro and he'll take on any of the women. I don't know, man. Like, there's some seriously talented, badass women on that roster. So, what's the main event that's been advertised now for this pay-per-view on the 11th is an intergender match. It is JP Harlow with Joey Hyder and Boss Baines versus Bougie Reality, Maddie Rankowski and Rashay Chanel and Jasmine Allure. I'm very, very intrigued by this match. What do you guys think about seeing more intergender matches and what this matchup might bring?
Well, first of all, I hope that little shit JP Harlow gets his ass whipped with that purse by Rashay Chanel.
Agreed.
I think this is great for Mission Pro to have this type of intergender action, because as long as it makes sense and as long as it's done right, it's going to be great. And I have no issue with Mission Pro doing it, because they can do these type of matches, I think, perfectly without issue. And it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out, but I'll admit to a fault, JP Harlow is the dude, man, and JP Harlow's doing his thing, and he's doing a great job as a heel. And you know what? To put Bougie Reality out there, especially how far they've come since this team came together, because it seems like the most unlikely team, but they came together. They've been dominant. They've been great. They've gelled together. I feel like this is going to be an awesome match. And it's going to showcase both ladies while also keeping JP Harlow as the ultimate heel within the company. So I'm excited for this one.
Look, Ezra, I respect that, but like, some of us have spent time with JP. He's kind of an asshole. Like, in real life. Yeah. Like, he's got an ego.
He does.
That's why I said at the beginning, I hope he gets his ass whipped with that purse by Rashay Chanel, and then Maddie kicks him in the gonads.
Anybody that challenges genocide probably has a death wish.
That's like Jake Paul challenging Canelo Alvarez. That's not going to end well for you.
No.
Yeah. and the kicking in the balls. I'm surprised. I pay money to see Elder just make a kick motion in general.
I don't even think I could do
I know you
dude
can,
loves,
man.
I can't even do a dude loves sweet shin music. I don't.
I
might fall over.
But you want to see JP get it shoved up his cram hole, because that's what he told you.
Whatever. I'm okay with JP now. Now he opened his mouth to like thunder, and he's gonna get double drop kick to the teeth. He's gonna have genocide. Is gonna do whatever she does to him. Rip his arms off like wings off a freaking moth. So he's got his. Yeah. He's got enough shit ahead of him. I have no beef with him anymore. We're cool, man. We could toast some Taco Bell burritos together. I don't care.
Look, I mean, Thunder did slap JP, but if she was cleared for action, I don't think that night would have ended well for him.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And Elder, I think now is the time for you to make nice with Jasmine Allure. I think you and her need to squash y'all's beef and get on the same page, because she's fixing to
Well,
be on the other side,
yeah,
going against. So
Nah.
she
Yeah.
was a champion for less time than Santino was in the Royal Rumble.
Oh man,
Wow.
cold.
Wow.
that's
Cold.
cold.
That's
Dang.
awesome.
But I'll tell you who the real boss is, though. Tiffany Nieves is the boss.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
I'm a big Tiffany Nieves mark.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Yep. Yep. So we'll talk a little bit more about that pay-per-view as the date gets closer. We'll do a full preview, but I did want to mention that main event match is pretty interesting. So anything else you guys want to talk about before we let folks go? Because I'm really hungry again.
I'm hungry too.
Taco Bell got you hungry, huh?
No, Taco Bell is crap.
Yes.
Do I look like a clown to you? Do I amuse you?
Yeah, actually, you do amuse me because you are a clown.
You don't look like a clown, but you look like a former president of the United States.
No, I think we're good.
Oh, God.
I think
I
we're
think we're
good.
good. All right. And on that note,
Ben Franklin was not president. He's just on the $100 bill.
all right, everybody. I want to thank Karen Peterson for joining us tonight and giving us some of her time to share her opinions and insight into New Japan and all things Japanese wrestling. So, Ezra, where can people reach you on the socials?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, Deadman469. You can find me. You can also follow, of course, Our Nation Sports Show. Got to plug that at Owen_Sports Show on Twitter, Facebook.com, and Instagram. Our Nation Sports Show. 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific time every Tuesday. All sports and everything. And also follow my Group 2 Sweet Cosplay, our cosplay wrestling group, on our socials. Major announcements coming possibly next week, so stay tuned.
Nice. Neil?
Too Sweet Neil on Twitter and Instagram, Craft Beer Neil. It's where I post all my douchebag beer photos and talk about that, and mostly just that. But Twitter's for wrestling, and yeah, you know, can't wait to do another show again. And thanks for having me on.
Of course. Deb?
At That's So Debonair on the Twitter machine and the Instagram.
Awesome. Tony?
You can find me at Tony Justice AJFA, and if you're a Metallica fan, you know what that means. And I'd also like to plug something else that's new. Over the holidays, I started my vlogs again. Thanks to Thunder Rosa for motivating me. She told me I needed to start doing them again, and if Thunder Rosa tells you something, you do it. So I started doing the vlogs, and it's something that takes my mind off of what I'm doing out here working. And it's something to share with all of y'all. So I would like for y'all to check my vlogs out. Big news coming. There's a name I want to drop, but I'll drop it at a later date of the vlogs themselves. But you can find those vlogs at my YouTube channel, which will be associated with the Nation's Corner YouTube channel at a later date, but at Tony Justice AJFA on YouTube.
Awesome. Good luck with that, man. I'm excited for you.
Appreciate it. Mike?
Yeah, Taco Vlogs is taken already with Thunder, so, but Whataburger Vlog, that would be copyright infringement, so what could you call it?
The Saint Anger Chronicles.
Nah, good luck with that, man. Like and subscribe it, man. Tony will have you laughing, man.
Thanks.
Just go see me, Mongrovian Mike. Go to HostelToys.com. Go to Sales of the Dead if you're looking for some vintage wrestling shirts and horror stuff. Sales of the Dead on Instagram. Go there, and that's about it for me.
Awesome. You can find me at PW Front Row across all the socials. You can find us on Twitter at Nation's Corner and across all the other socials at The Nation's Corner. Thanks, everybody, for joining us for the supersized episode of the show, and we will see everybody next week. Later.